Hi there, this is Craig, and this is another mindfulness video. The theme for this one is about our thinking and what to do when your mind is overthinking, flighty, overanalyzing, maybe causing you discomfort in your body. So that's kind of what this video is about. So thoughts are going to happen. We're never going to not be thinking. Our mind is conditioned to think. We are going to think. So it's kind of how to manage the thoughts that arrive. Now, your thoughts, you can imagine, are like a river. There's like a stream of thoughts. There's a constant stream of thoughts. We tend to think more when we're a bit more stressed or anxious or nervous. There's more thinking, more kind of what ifs, and more things that we play out in our mind. This can cause emotional turbulence in our body if we're in our thoughts, in this river, this stream of thoughts, stream of consciousness for long periods of time. It can start to affect us on a physical level. So it's very useful to begin to become aware of our thinking. Now, becoming aware of thoughts sounds pretty obvious, because obviously when you're thinking, you're in your thought and you understand what your thought is saying to you. So there is an awareness of the thought already. Otherwise, you wouldn't act upon your thought. However, we tend to accept and believe our thoughts at face value. Thoughts can come and we just accept them straight away. We're like, oh, yeah, that's exactly how it is. So often our thoughts are very judgmental or very argumentative or confrontational about things in our life, including ourselves. We can have thoughts that say, I'm no good, or I'm stupid, or I'm made a mess of that, or I wish I'd done it differently. There's lots of thoughts like that. There's also thoughts about other people, about, well, they not doing things correctly, or they should be doing this, or they should be doing that. And we believe them. We believe our thoughts immediately. We're just like, yep, that's exactly it. That's exactly true. So this video is to remind you that this river of thoughts is not you. Your thoughts are not you. You can stand on the riverbank and watch your thoughts go by without believing them or following them or entering the content of them. All you can do is just watch them. You can just observe them, and they come along the river. There you are at the riverbank, and you're watching them go by. We can do this by entering what we call awareness. Now, you're already, as I've said, aware of your thinking, but it's very useful to take a step back and actually just become observant of the thought without investing in the content of the thought. That's the difference. There's a subconscious autopilot going on, that we're constantly in our thoughts and we're believing what they say, and they're pulling us and pushing us and moving us here, there, and everywhere. You could think of it as going around bends in this river, little eddies, little currents pulling you this way and that. And it can cause a lot of discomfort, as I say, a lot of suffering in your life to believe your thoughts, to just accept your thoughts at face value. It's very good to have an awareness of the thought, because then you start to see the context and the bigger picture around a particular thought, why you're having that thought, how you're feeling as you're thinking that thought, what events have been going on to give you that opinion or that judgment. How has the past reflected in your thinking? What memories are you resurfacing? What patterns are reimagining every time you think? So there's a lot deeper, there's a lot more levels to just the surface level of thought. But often we're in the surface level, we're in the river, and it's pulling us here, there, and everywhere. And before we know it, we're causing ourselves a lot of problems, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension, a lot of vulnerability, a lot of fear to do with life, because our thoughts are telling us things are fearful or damaging or whatever. So great practice is to sit on the riverbank or stand on the riverbank So we're going to have a go just now of doing that. So the way to do it, and it's quite useful sometimes to close your eyes to lose a sense for a bit and just go inward. So close your eyes and just come back to your being just for a moment. And as you sit there, notice any thought that may appear. So just sitting, just letting the world flow by. At some point, a thought will appear. So it could be a thought about food. Now I've given you that suggestion. Maybe a food thought arrives. Or maybe you're thinking about future. Or maybe you're thinking about what to do later or what to do earlier or what's happened earlier. But you're having an awareness that your mind is thinking. That's the first step. So just notice that there's a thought. Now, we're not trying to stop the thought from arriving. We're not trying to fix the thought that's arrived. We're not trying to change the thought to a more positive one. We're just observing the thought. That's it. So you observe the thought, and the thought can say whatever it wants to say. So have a moment, just observe your thinking. We'll give it 30 seconds. And then just open your eyes. You can come back to watching the video. So in that 30 seconds, there may have been thoughts. You might have noticed a few thoughts. Maybe you were thinking 30 seconds was long, or there could have been a thought. But what we're attempting to do is to observe the thought without going into the thought, without attaching to the thought, without necessarily believing the thought. We're just observing that a thought has come. And if you do that and you watch the thought, after a moment or two, it goes away, and then there's a gap, and then another thought arises. So even in that 30 seconds, you may have noticed that you're not constantly living in thoughts. There are little moments. There's a moment where there's not a thought. There's a thought, there's a gap, not a thought, and then there's a thought. So thoughts are kind of separate in that way. So there are gaps. So that's interesting. So straight away, you're still here. You're still living in a gap of no thought. So that's one identification that you're not your thoughts. There's still an awareness there, which is separate to the thinking. There is an awareness of the thought. So that's amazing, because you could be thinking all sorts of stuff about yourself or about other people or whatever, but there's this kind of peaceful watcher, peaceful observer observing this thought. Now this practice is not just immediately going into the thought and going, yep, I agree with that thought, and then you're carrying on with different thoughts and actions based on that agreement. You're just allowing and accepting the thought to arrive, and you're watching it, and you'll find that after a little bit of watching, it dissolves back into the awareness, dissolves back into consciousness. So you could say there's consciousness always here, and every so often a thought comes up. It's a bit like a wave on an ocean. The ocean is always there, and then here comes a wave, here comes a thought. And I'll watch it for a bit, and the wave goes back into the sea, goes back into the ocean, it's gone. The ocean is still there. So you're the ocean, your awareness. You're not these thoughts. So any thought that comes in, oh, I'm so anxious all the time, just watch that. It dissolves, it goes away. You're on the riverbank. Another thought comes up. This is crazy, watching my thoughts. You watch that go away. So thoughts arrive and go. They come and they go. And you're still here, sitting on the riverbank, perfectly peaceful, perfectly calm, just observing. There's nothing else going on. Just an awareness of I'm thinking. I'm thinking is a thought. I'm aware of the thought that says I'm thinking. I'm aware of the thought that says I'm hungry. I'm aware of the thought that says I'm no good. I'm aware of the thought that's worrying about the news. I'm aware of the thought that's bothered by the event that happened yesterday. I'm aware of the emotions that are coming up from the thoughts, because they're linked. Your emotions and thoughts kind of coexist. You can't be annoyed unless you're annoyed from a thought about something. You can't be angry unless you're angry about a thought about something. So your thoughts are always about something. They're never about the present moment, the nowness, the isness of this moment. That's awareness. So awareness is just observing this moment. What's going on in this moment? Pretty peaceful. And then a thought comes. This is not peaceful. There's a thought. This is not peaceful. But I'm on the riverbank just watching that thought come and go. So this is a practice. And when you sit, even just for 30 seconds like we did, you're taking a conscious choice to step back onto that riverbank and look at your thoughts. You're making a conscious choice to just be aware of the thought without just following the thought blindly in subconsciousness. You are conscious of your thoughts. Very, very important and very, very powerful. Because the more you're just conscious of your thoughts, and the more you just allow them to come and go, what tends to happen is you don't add to those thoughts with more thoughts. You don't add to those thoughts with ways to fix those thoughts. You just allow things to come and go. And what you find after a while is your mind begins to settle and think less. There's actually less thoughts arrive because you're not adding with more thoughts. You're on the riverbank. The riverbank is awareness. Awareness is not thought. So there becomes bigger gaps between your thoughts, more space, more awareness, more emptiness, more isness, more beingness. And what arrives of your beingness is kind of peaceful joy, happy contentment. Life is okay. You find you're less worried, you're less vulnerable, you're less frustrated, you're less agitated, because you're not just living in your thoughts. You've taken a step away. You're resting. You're resting from your thoughts. You're not trying to stop the thoughts. Good luck with trying to stop your thoughts. Thoughts come and go. So all you need to do is observe the comings and goings. But you're doing it from a place of stillness, a place of spaciousness. It doesn't matter what your mind says. You don't follow it. You just go, yeah, interesting. You might have an interested thought to the first thought, but then you just let it be. So any thoughts, any at all, I'm no good, life sucks, I hate this, I wish things were this way, I want that person to be that way, why aren't they doing this, why aren't they turning up on time, this is annoying, this is, be on the riverbank. All these thoughts will come and go and eventually start to settle. Also, you'll find your emotions will begin to settle as a result. What's left is calm and peacefulness and the present moment. So if you're finding you're getting really wound up or really agitated in any way, go to the riverbank and observe your thoughts. Just let them come and go. Let them come and go. You're from a much kind of more safer, peaceful space than if you were in the river being swept along by whatever your mind tells you. and thinking it's reality when the reality is in fact the river bank, not the river. The river is made up of memory and imagination. It's made up of past and future. It's not made up of now. Now is reality and the riverbank is now, because there you are sitting. So I hope that's made some sort of sense, and I hope it's useful to you. That's this video. Just taking some time out to be with your thoughts. Just sit with them. You don't have to analyze your thoughts. You don't have to interpret them. You can just watch them coming and going. There's a meditation there. It's thought meditation. So be in your thoughts by all means, but just be aware of them without following them and see what happens to your life. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that's helped, and have a lovely day, everybody. Nice to see you all, and I'll see you again in another video. Bye-bye just now.